Hello, Liz Hansen. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
I'm so excited you're here and can't wait to share what you do with our audience. And let's just dive in. So tell us about your business.
So, I'm the owner and photographer at the Chicago Boudoir Photography Studio in Winnetka, Illinois. If you've never heard of boudoir, it's a Victoria's Secret style photo shoot experience for the everyday woman. And I absolutely love what I do.
I love it. So tell us how you got into boudoir photography.
So, boudoir is a way for women to feel confident and empowered in their own skin, to create some beautiful images that they'll enjoy for years to come. Maybe they'll gift them to someone, maybe they'll just have them for themselves. I've been in photography for a long time. I studied art in college. I started out taking pictures of families and babies. I was a young mom snapping pictures of my own kids. And then I moved to Chicago and got a job at a photo studio, and they did some boudoir there. I'd never really heard of it. This was about 10 years ago. And I just kind of got dropped into this world, and I realized that boudoir was really changing women's lives in a really positive way. They were loving the experience. They were stepping out of the studio feeling confident. I did my own boudoir photo shoot after I'd been working there for a little bit and had a transformative experience, really feeling more confident in my body, really kind of claiming my own power. And then I wanted other women to have this experience as well. So I opened up my own studio about 5 years ago, and now I do boudoir full time.
So interesting. And when you say boudoir, it's like sexy pictures, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it comes from a French word that means a woman's bedroom. What it's come to mean in the photography world is that you come to my studio, get your hair and makeup done, and get some sensual pictures taken. You know, my clients bring their own wardrobe. Some people bring lingerie. Some people want to do what I call a fine art nude session, implied nude. Someone would want to be more covered. You know, being sexy is not about being naked. But the idea is to take some pictures where you feel sexy, sensual, confident, beautiful in a way that maybe you've never seen yourself before.
So interesting. So tell us how it was a transformative experience for yourself.
I grew up definitely, like maybe a lot of you listening to this, with a lot of inhibitions and dissatisfaction with my own body. You know, a lot of trying to live up to beauty standards, a lot of thinking that I wasn't good enough. You know, I was a dorky kid. I'll just say that. I was dorky. I was in band. I wasn't very socially confident. I didn't date a lot, you know, and I had just felt like, you know, I was never going to look a certain way. I was never going to be a certain way. I was never going to be, you know, attractive in the way that I wanted to be. I mean, I'd kind of grown up through some of that in my 20s, worked through that a little bit. I got married, I had some kids, but I was still holding on to a lot of thoughts and feelings about I was not the perfect woman. I was not the perfect body. I was not the right kind of body. I was not the right kind of person. I did a boudoir photo shoot, and it was really nerve-wracking for me. So I felt really nervous being in front of someone else in my underwear. I'd never done something like that before. It felt very much out of my comfort zone. I'd grown up in a very conservative household where we didn't talk about sex, we didn't talk about bodies. I felt like doing this boudoir photo shoot, I was kind of being naughty, you know, I was doing something that I shouldn't be doing, something like that. But I stepped in front of that camera. The photographer was very, helped me feel very confident. She was very reassuring. And I just felt great. And then I got the photos back, and wow, it didn't even look like me. I mean, I felt like I was looking at almost at another person. And I gave the book to my husband, and he gave me the best reaction I've ever had. He thought this was the greatest gift he'd ever been given. He just showered me with compliments. Not that he hadn't before, but it just for both of us, I think we felt like it opened up something in my heart where I was able to kind of claim my sensuality, love my body a little bit more, be a little bit open in my marriage and my relationship. And I loved the experience, and I wanted to do it again. And I wanted other women to have that same experience as well.
That is so cool. So many women, myself included, have suffered from body image, right? We're not enough in some way. We're not thin enough. We're not young enough. We're not pretty enough. We're not whatever. And I just think that's a really interesting way to start owning your own power with your body and really loving and appreciating it.
Yeah, I just feel like as women, we often put ourselves last and put ourselves down constantly, right? Like we often put everyone else's needs before our own. We say, our husband's needs, our partner's needs, our children's needs, our business's needs come before our own needs. And we sometimes find value or virtue in saying that we're like bad or not good enough, right? Like somehow it's a virtue to say like, oh, well, I'm just not good enough, or we're socialized, I think sometimes as women, to believe these things about ourselves. And you're not going to overcome all of this just in an afternoon. And I get that. But a boudoir shoot can be a way to step out of that for a minute and say, I'm good enough. I deserve it. I deserve to celebrate myself. My needs are important. I'm worthy. I deserve to feel good in my own skin. And I deserve to be documented. How many women and moms have a camera full of pictures of their dogs, of their babies, of the beautiful places they've visited, and they're not in any pictures. Women hide from the camera a lot of times. They take pictures of their babies and they're not there with their babies. They're not realizing that they deserve to be documented, celebrated, and loved as well. So that's one of the things I love to bring to women in a boudoir photo shoot experience. Yes, we're going to create beautiful pictures, but I also want to create an experience and a space in my studio where people can feel confident, loved, and celebrated.
I love it. There's so many messages to women that, we're not enough in some way. And I just think this is just a really interesting and powerful way to show, women are beautiful, all shapes and sizes. How do women, like, I could see myself, right? I haven't had a shoot, but maybe I will someday.
Would love to have you in the studio.
How do women feel if they're not at their ideal weight, or they're not where they want to be physically? How do you handle that when it comes to shooting women?
So listen, I have people every single day of the week call me and say, I've thought about doing this, but maybe I'll wait until I lose 10 pounds. It's always 10 pounds. I don't know what people think is magic about 10 pounds. And you know what? My answer to that is this. Number one, you are beautiful just as you are. You deserve to be celebrated today. Maybe you're on a fitness journey. Maybe you're going to lose some weight. Maybe you're not. It doesn't matter. Today is valuable. You are valuable today. Where you are right now is worth celebrating. Who you are right now is lovable and worth documenting. And most of the time, we look back on pictures and love our past selves more than we love our current selves in many ways, right? Pictures become, in my opinion, photographs and pictures become more valuable as time goes on, right? So when you take a picture of your baby today, you love it. But when you look back at it 5 years from now, you're like, oh, that little baby, right? You take a picture of yourself today, and then you look back on a picture of yourself 5 years ago and you look, I was 5 years younger, right? So I am in the mindset that today is the day. You are valuable and loved today. You are beautiful today. And I would love to have you in the studio and show you just how beautiful you are right now, just as you are. Sexy is not a number. Sexy is not a size. Confidence is not a size. Confidence is not a shape. It's an attitude. You don't have to know how to be sexy or look great in front of the camera. That's my job. So just show up just as you are, and I'll make you look fabulous, guaranteed. In fact, not that this is a sales pitch, but I offer 100% money back guarantee at my studio. If you see your pictures and you're not just absolutely blown away by them, not only do you not have to purchase an album, but I'll give you your session feedback. That's how confident I am that I can get you some photos that you will love and treasure for years to come.
No, I love it. That's so powerful. So Liz, what you're saying is women's bodies should be celebrated, all shapes and sizes. And your boudoir photography helps women do that, because certainly our media gives messages that there's only one type of woman who is really, truly beautiful, one really kind of shape, and you're really saying something different.
Absolutely. I do think things are changing, but for a lot of years, I think we've been fed what I call the one story, right? There's only one way to be a woman. There's only one way to be beautiful. There's only one size that, walks down the runway. I do think we are making some strides in this, right? There's a lot more size inclusive brands and clothing coming out. I'm seeing a lot more ads on my Facebook and Instagram feeds of body shapes and types. I do think we are making a little bit of, strides in that. But those of us like me, I'm in my 40s, right? Like I have lived through a lot of those years of the one story, the one way, right? It was never true. It was never true that there was only one way to be a woman. There was never true that there was only one way to be beautiful. But a lot of us grew up just eating that diet, right? That media diet that told us that we had to be a certain way. And if we weren't that way, we were wrong or not beautiful. That's absolutely not true. I don't believe that. And I don't want you to believe that. I believe that every woman of every size, of every shape, of every color deserves to be celebrated and is beautiful. And my goal in the studio is to make every woman look and feel confident and create images that they will look at and think, that's me, and I love it, and I love who that woman is. I grew up with a very structured view of what I could be and how I should look and how I should act. So I understand that wherever you are in your journey, you may have some stories that you've been telling yourself for a long time about the right way to be, the right way to show up, the right way to look. I think it's time as women for us to claim who we really want to be, to stand on our own 2 feet and say, this is who I am and I love it. I'm going to claim it. This is the life I want to live. And boudoir can be a way to celebrate that.
I love it. I know it took me until I was 50 before I would wear a sleeveless shirt, which is so sad. It is so sad. And today I love sleeveless shirts, but it was like, screw it. I've got good arms, but I had this like body image at times in my life where I wasn't enough or I didn't look like the models or whatever. And I just think it's a message that, we all need to embrace more, that our bodies are beautiful and amazing at every shape and size.
And something that I really have learned over the last few years. So there's body negativity where you hate your body, and there's body positivity where you say like, I love my body. But what I find even more powerful is something that I've learned called body neutrality. And what I mean by that is your body is not the thing that we worship. It's not the thing that we are striving for. Your body is an instrument that allows you to act and create and love and feel. And the body itself is not what we are in some ways celebrating and trying to love. Does that make sense? So instead of saying, I love my arms, which is great, you can love your arms. What if you could turn it around and say, I love my arms because they let me go and do things. My legs take me to interesting places. My stomach lets me eat delicious food that I get great joy from. My eyes let me see the wonders of the world, right? So our bodies allow us to live and experience. They're not just there to look at.
A 1,000%. I mean, I couldn't agree with you more, because so often people do have negative body images and it's hard for them to be like, oh, I love my body suddenly, right? That's a hard stretch for some people. So going to something neutral or like just appreciating what your eyes can do is a really positive and realistic step for people struggling with body image.
Yeah, absolutely. I just think we've placed so much on what our bodies look like, ignoring what our bodies are doing for us. We are fantastic, unlimited beings in a body having experiences, in my view, right? So you are a goddess on this earth, experiencing the wonders of being a human, and your body is just the vessel that allows you to have those experiences. And when you can kind of expand your thinking to thinking about what your body allows you to do and less about what your body looks at, it allows you to appreciate and love that vessel for what it is.
Love it. How would you talk about your work, boudoir photography, and feminism? Because I could see a lot of feminist women be like, well, you're kind of exploiting yourselves, and this isn't really women empowerment. It's more sex driven, which women have been obviously used for hundreds of years. So what would you say about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so interesting. I have people ask me this question all the time. And the interesting thing is women always ask me this, men never ask me this. So I look at this from a couple of different points of view. So first off, I don't view boudoir as about sex necessarily. I have women in the studio all the time who are coming to feel confident. It has nothing to do with a partner, has nothing to do with sexuality. The body is so much more than sexuality. But the body is also about sexuality. I'm very sex positive also and want to embrace our ability to feel pleasure through sex, through our sexuality, and through sensuality. So when a woman chooses to embrace her sensuality and her sexuality, I think that is a high form of feminism, right? So if you are claiming your own power in many ways, including in the sexual realm, you are acting as a powerful woman, which I believe is what feminism is about claiming our power. It's not about putting men down. It's not about being like a man. Feminism is claiming your own power as a woman. And I think you can do that in many ways. You can do that through your work. You can do that through your thoughts. You can do that through your sexuality. You can do that with your body. So sure, women's bodies have been exploited for sex for lots of reasons. And there are ways to exploit women through art and through pornography, in my opinion. But boudoir, in the way I approach it and the way I achieve it in my studio, in my opinion, is a powerful way for women to claim their own power rather than to be put down or exploited by others. You can argue with me all day if you want. You can send me mean messages on Instagram. People do it all the time and tell me that's what I'm doing. But it's just not how I see it. It's not how my clients see it. And if you are a feminist and you haven't had a boudoir photo shoot experience, I would encourage you to look into it and see what you can find about claiming your own power and see how that might change your mindset around it.
I love it. Beautifully said. And right, I think we don't focus enough on women's pleasure and owning that. And more women, in my opinion, need to find their own pleasure every day in, in every avenue that is right for them.
I mean, in my opinion, feminism is about allowing women choice and power, right?
Yeah.
So feminism is not saying you have to climb the corporate ladder. You can't be a stay-at-home mom. Feminism is not saying, in my opinion, feminism is saying, woman, you now have a choice to use your life and your powers and your gifts as you choose. Right? It's about claiming power, not telling women what they have to do. So if you're a feminist and you say you can't be a stay-at-home mom, in my opinion, that's actually anti-feminist because that's telling a woman that she can only be one way. Again, we're
Sure.
back to one story again, right? So if you are claiming feminism and you're saying a woman can't take beautiful nude pictures of herself, again, you're putting a woman in a box and telling her what she can and can't do with her body and her power, right? So this might sound backwards to some people to think that if you're taking sexy pictures, it's not feminist. But in my opinion, it actually is extremely feminist to giving women the power and choice to celebrate themselves as they see fit.
Well, exactly. And you're doing it in a way at their choice and how they want to use them. And it's not being exploited by somebody else.
Exactly. Yeah.
Do you ever do male boudoir shoots?
So personally, that's not what I specialize in, but there are people who do. If you're a man and you're listening to this and you want to have an empowering photo shoot experience, I believe you absolutely deserve that. And I would be happy to send you along to a photographer who specializes in that. My studio is set up for, hair and makeup and a very feminist empowering experience for women. I have 100% female staff. So I don't actually specialize in male boudoir, but I think men deserve to have this as well. So if you're listening, if you're interested in this, I'd be happy to send you over some referrals for people who do that as well. Men and women both deserve to feel confident in their bodies, to not be fed that narrative. Men have been fed a narrative about their bodies as well, that there's one way for a man to look as well. It's not exclusive to women. So I believe women and men, people of all genders, people of all identities deserve to have, an empowering experience as well.
I love it. Your business has really grown. You've really created a huge social media following. For those of us who are listening, what has led to your success And what tips can you share?
Hardest thing I've ever done is have a baby, raise a child, right? I have 2 young girls, right? The next hardest thing I've ever done is start a business. It has taken so much personal growth, personal risk that really I didn't expect. I guess a few years ago, if you told me I would have started a business, I would not have expected that this was the road I was going to go down. I was working at another photo studio. Unexpectedly, the owner of that studio relocated and I was out of a job. And I thought my next move was just to go find another job, do something kind of part-time and small. I had kind of envisioned my life to be a little bit smaller, to I guess not to take a lot of risks. I have kind of a low risk personality just by my nature. And my husband, I remember I came home and I said, listen, I'm out of a job. It was very unexpected. I had a job one day and I didn't the next. And he's like, well, why don't you start your own photo studio? And I just remember being like, there is no way I could do that. I have no experience. I've been working for other people my whole life. I don't know how to start a business. And he's like, well, let's just figure it out. And I was like, wow, that is not where I thought this was going to go. But together, with his support, we took out a loan. I opened up a commercial studio and started a business. And really, I started from ground zero. I didn't know how to start or run a business. But here's the thing. Turns out there are people on the internet who know how to do this. There are resources. There are mentors. So if there is something that you're thinking about doing, my mantra has become everything is figure outable. Okay. Everything is figure outable. So I started my
That's
business.
Marie Forleo says that.
Yes, exactly. And
Mhm.
by the way, I'm a big fan of life coaching and what they have to teach. And I have utilized life coaching services as I've started my entrepreneurship journey and learned things like this. Everything is figure outable, right? So I opened my business and I'm like, wow, I need to collect sales tax. I don't know how to do that. Well, guess what? Everything is figure outable. Okay, I need to learn how to accept credit cards. I don't know how to do that. Guess what? Everything is figure outable. Right. So just step by step, I found things on the internet, talked to people, hired people, purchased educational courses, worked with coaches to figure out each step of winning and running a business. And it has been the journey of a lifetime. Honestly, I have met so many fabulous people. I have really enjoyed working with every client that's come into my studio. I have now photographed over 1,000 women at the Chicago Boudoir Photography studio and just loved every minute of it.
I love it. Yeah, that's such a powerful mindset to have when you're starting out anything, right? You can figure it out. It can be frustrating, but you can figure it out. It shouldn't stop us. And I love what your husband said, which I think so often is, I'm stereotyping, but sometimes men are more likely to, in my experience in working with many women, say, let's just try it. Let's just do it. And women are kind of like, often, again, not everybody, I need X, I need Y before I do it. And no, it's just like dive in. And that's kind of what you did.
Yeah, and absolutely. My husband and I, we complement each other well. I'm the one that's always like wanting to do the safe thing, always the one who's wanting to kind of do the familiar thing. And he is the one who is, signing up to go bungee jumping and take risks, right? So we do complement each other well in that. But what I have learned, like you say, is like there's not a lot of joy. There's not a lot of fun in just always doing the same thing you've always done, right? A lot of the joy and freedom and experiences in life come outside of your comfort zone, right? And we know this, we've heard that, but stepping out of that comfort zone can be really, really scary. So, I'm so glad I took the risk to start my business. Of course, in hindsight, it's worked out and I've loved it. But like when I first started, I had no idea if I was just going to lose a ton of money. But I do remember my husband saying, if we lose all the money that we just borrowed to start your business, we are in our 40s. We have enough time to pay it back before we need to retire. Like, it's going to be okay. This is a risk that's manageable. But to me, emotionally, it felt like, I felt like I was driving the truck off the cliff. Like, this was just like a really, really hard thing for me emotionally to do. Starting a business, you have to put yourself out there. You have to put your face on social media. You got to like tell people about your business so that they can come buy things from you. And that was hard for me too.
Yeah, I hear you. I have, I struggle with that myself. I didn't even have a picture up in social media until, within the last 10 years, that's all, because, it's overwhelming. I didn't grow up with it. So it's amazing how you've done that. What has helped your confidence with putting yourself out there like that?
Well, one thing that I realized early on is that I couldn't ask women to come to my photo studio and step out of their comfort zone and take pictures if I wasn't willing to do that myself in other ways, right? So I really couldn't create a safe, empowering boudoir photo shoot experience for my clients if I wasn't walking the walk, if I wasn't talking the talk, right? So every time I would have a client come in and tell me how scared or nervous they were to do a photo shoot, I kind of realized like I need to be the one who's willing to do this as well, right? So I have boudoir photographer friends now. So I've done, I don't know, 15 or 20 of my own boudoir photo shoots. I love it. I'm not scared to do it anymore. It's just part of what I do. Something that you do over and over again, you start to get used to it, right? So I took small risks and now risk isn't quite as scary for me. I'm not perfect at it. That's why I don't like to say practice is perfect, but you take a little risk, then you can take the next little risk, right?
Well, you build confidence by doing, and you take small steps which help you. And when you do one, it's like, oh, I can do it. That builds. So action actually helps confidence.
Absolutely. And inaction is an action in and of itself, right? So sometimes indecision, you're making a decision by not deciding, right? So you either are taking an action by not moving or you're taking an action by moving. And I've learned that a lot. Just by sitting, you're actually not, sitting is also a decision, right? Sitting on something.
1,000%. And I love that is so, so true. Inaction is action. And if you don't take the action today, where are you going to be a year from now, a month from now? But inaction is a decision. And I hope more people see it that way, because I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah. And I mean, listen, I get it. I remember many sleepless nights when I started my business, worried about what people thought or worried about losing money. And, I've had some bad experiences. I had an experience one time where someone went on their social media and asked all of their 20,000 followers to write a bad review on my site.
Wow.
And I got a flood of negative reviews on all of my platforms from people who didn't know me and had never been my clients, right? And that really shook my confidence. But that happened. I got through it. We worked through it. And now I have the confidence I can get through things like that again.
Oh my gosh. Why did this person do this? And how did you handle all that? That's really hard. That would send many people, even myself, into like a rabbit hole of despair.
Yeah. Yeah. So, overnight, I suddenly had a ton of negative reviews on Google, Yelp, Facebook, a bunch of, vitriolic messages coming in all my.
From a former client or from who?
A competitor. It was a competitor.
Oh.
And there had been a misunderstanding, and I had tried to explain. It's not someone I've ever met before, but once all the followers saw her side of the story, she just, they just came out in full force, and they felt she had been wronged. And so they left a ton of bad reviews on all my sites. And I remember lying on the floor crying. My business was very new. And, it was still in a stage where I was bringing in a little bit of revenue, but I wasn't paying myself. Right. So I was getting up every day and working full time on a business and not taking a paycheck. Right. Mm-hmm. Because the business was so new that I had to, every dollar that came in had to be spent on the business to keep the business, pay rent and pay, for all of the things that it takes to keep a business going. So I remember just in despair thinking, this is over. With all these bad reviews on the internet, no one will ever hire me again. No one will ever want to come to my photo studio ever again, just crying on the floor. And my husband, my fabulous husband, by the way, I have a great husband who's really supportive. He's like, you know what, we're going to figure this out. We're going to get through this. We're going to figure it out. And we got to work the next day. You can report reviews as fraudulent and say, hey, this person never came to my studio. And it took maybe 4 to 6 months for all of those to drop off. But, we worked through it, and we wrote responses back and said, hey, you weren't a client in our studio, and this doesn't accurately reflect the service that we offer. And eventually Google and Facebook and Yelp took the bad reviews down, or they fell to the bottom so people weren't seeing them anymore. I mean, it took it took several months, but what can you do? Anyone at any time can write a bad review for you on the internet. There's nothing you can do to prevent something like that from happening, really. So
that's amazing how you just like figured it out and disputed it, and you didn't, give up. I mean, I think that is really an amazing story, and I hope that's inspiring to others starting a business or having a business and struggling if that happens.
There was nothing else to do. besides power forward, right? Like at that point, I really couldn't quit my business. We were in too deep with the loans and stuff that like quitting would have been financially disastrous at that point. So we were bringing in money, and I could see that maybe eventually we would turn a profit and be able to take a paycheck home. But we were at that point where we had spent enough money, but weren't taking any money home, that if we'd quit right then, like that would have been the worst time to quit, right? And that's when all those bad reviews came in. And so there was nothing to do but just get on the internet, try to figure it out, try to get those reviews taken down, try to fight it, try to put more content out there that was positive about what I wanted to do, to try to bury the negativity. I mean, I didn't really feel like I had a choice but to power through.
Beautiful. Very inspiring. And there's always haters who are going to hate. So you have to keep that in mind, that there are just people out there who enjoy, tearing people down.
Well, and no matter what you're doing, there's competitors out there, right? Like, and I'm glad there are other photographers out there. I can't take pictures of everybody in Chicago, right? Like I need other people out there. So if those other competitors want to write bad reviews on the internet, like that is always out there. Like you can't ever shield yourself from that entirely. You can do your best to be your own light and serve your clients as best you can, but there's always going to be competitors, and the internet's a big open place, right? So
yes,
just have to be aware that that's always something that could happen.
Yes. Liz, tell us some of your stories during your business launch and maintaining it, and any interesting stories.
I feel like anything and everything that has happened to me in some ways has happened. At one point I made a bingo card of like crazy things that happened, and I posted, I was like, how many of these have happened to you when you tried to start a business? So 8 weeks after I signed my commercial lease, the building flooded and everything that was in there had to be thrown away. They had to rip up the floors, replace all the floors. I had to throw away a bunch of stuff. And then I couldn't use the studio for like 3 months while they fixed that. At one point, the next year, the ceiling caved in because the person above me took a bath, I guess some kind of crazy bath where the bath like overflowed over the bathtub and all the water came down into my studio. The exterior sign of my studio got stolen one day. Someone just stole it. I had to buy a new one. Like, I don't know, just a lot of things have happened. I've had, clients from all walks of life have been in my studio and bring a lot of really interesting and fun props. I've had people take photo shoots with lightsabers. I had a woman who wanted a framed photo of her favorite cat. I've had women bring in horse rider, come in her horse riding gear and her horse whip. I've had a client who wanted to do a photo shoot where she was like swimming in a bath of candy. And so we like filled up a tub with like Skittles. I mean, I've just, boudoir, there's never a boring day at the boudoir studio. It's always interesting. I hear people's life stories of, all kinds of things, death, divorce, remarriage, open relationships, all kinds of things. It's never boring. There's always a good story at the boudoir studio.
So interesting. How have you built such a huge social media following?
Okay, so we've been talking a lot about boudoir, and obviously boudoir is my business, and I, love to take beautiful pictures of people. But my broader mission in life, honestly, is to help empower women to feel confident in all aspects of their lives. So I started a Facebook group called Empowered Women of Chicago. It's on Facebook. There's about 10,000 local women in that group. And what I do in that group is try to provide opportunities and conversations and platforms for women to explore how they can be more confident and empowered in their own lives, whether that means opening a business, growing a business, being a stay-at-home mom, leaving an abusive relationship, starting a new relationship, whatever it is that you need in your life to feel more confident and empowered. I've created what I think is a really empowering, safe community of women to come together and explore and discuss those issues. So I think what attracts women to the group is that it's local. We talk about Chicago issues or places to go or resources in the area. It's just women, and I moderate it to make sure that it's an uplifting and kind place for people to be authentic about struggles they might be having. And so they invite their friends. We have a really good time. If you'd love to join, I'd love to have you join. We post discussion questions and things every day that get people thinking about how they can live life more authentically.
I love it. And confidence, I feel like, is something that pretty much everyone struggles with, in my opinion, unless you're a narcissist. It's true. And especially women, and especially if you're trying something new. So that's a really powerful thing to offer, is to really help women with their confidence
And it comes from a really authentic place for myself because I have not always been confident or willing to take risks, right? So I can speak really, I think about my own journey and, everyone's at their own place. Everyone's got their own life. Everyone's going through hard things. Everybody, if you think they're not, you just don't know about it, right? I love people. I love meeting people. Maybe you can tell, but I love having a place where I can interact with people. And my favorite thing is when people have been in my Facebook group for a while and they've kind of gotten to know what I do. And then they come into the studio and I get to meet them face to face. It's just so fun. Sometimes I run into people from the group in the wild, is what I call it. A couple of weeks ago, I ran into a woman who'd been in the group for a few years at a taco shop, and she recognized me and we took a photo together. It was just so fun. I love knowing that I can, there's people in the community that I can interact with on the internet. So I think if you're looking to grow your social media following, the most important thing, in my opinion, is to really just be yourself. And you're going to attract some people and repel other people. I'm sure there's some people who don't like me. I know there's people who don't like me. They don't like my style. They don't like what I have to say. And that's fine, because the people who do like what I have to offer will be attracted. The people who don't, I can repel them. That's fine. There's other photographers, there's other opportunities for them. So just try very hard to be who you really are, and you'll find your tribe. You'll find your people.
I love it. Just a couple of things come to mind, right? They say marketing is about attracting whoever your ideal client is and repelling others. It's the other face of that. And also, what you said about other people, I so believe in the mantra, right? Everyone has a struggle you don't know about. And we all face hard things, and it's facing those hard things, yet kind of my purpose is finding joy anyway.
Yes. And, life coaching has been really transformative for me. I'm sure you can speak more. I'm not a life coach, obviously, but I have hired life coaches and just found so much more freedom and ability to face problems through life coaching. And I love the model of, transforming our thoughts. And in the end, you only have control over yourself anyway. Any control you thought you had over other people was an illusion. And so when
that is an understatement, right?
Because sometimes you think you are controlling other people, right? And that feels good maybe in the moment, but it's an illusion. So taking sort of control and mastery of my own ship, captain of my own ship, has been transformative for me through life coaching. So thank you for the work that you're doing with life coaching. I know it's meaningful to so many people.
Oh, yes. Well, I think everybody should have a life coach, and it's certainly transformed my life. And so much of it too is about how you're thinking about things. And yeah, it's so powerful. It takes you out of victim mode in any situation.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, Liz, anything else you want to share with our listeners that you haven't?
Well, I just want to share that in the last 6 to 8 months, I decided to launch an educational platform for photographers who want to get into boudoir. So I love boudoir and I love what I've been doing. And I know there's a lot of photographers who would like to get into it. Maybe they've been doing headshots, or maybe they've been doing weddings, and they are kind of intrigued by the idea of, bringing this empowering, confidence building experience to women. So I have created an educational platform to help photographers learn the art of boudoir and the business of boudoir. And this has been an interesting new business venture for me. And we've had lots of photographers sign up and be interested in this. So that's my next thing that I'm working on, and hoping to help photographers be profitable through boudoir and help women and their clients to feel the confidence that I know they can find through this art form.
I love it. So Liz, where can people find you?
So if you want to join the Facebook group, just search in Facebook, the VIP group for Empowered Women of Chicago. You'll find me there. My photo studio website is chicago-boudoir.com, and boudoir is BOUDOIR.com. And then if you're a photographer and you're interested in starting or growing a boudoir photography business, I'm at $1 Million Studio, which is $1million.studio.
Awesome. One more question I usually ask every guest. What would you tell your younger self today?
Wow. I would tell my younger self, go for it. It's going to work out. Don't be afraid. You're stronger than you think. You're a smart girl. You're going to figure it out.
Love it. All right, Liz. Well, this has been such a great conversation. Thank you so, so much for your time. And I can't wait for the listeners to hear this.
Thank you so much for having me. And I love what you do. Keep up the great work.
Thank you.